What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. And today we are going to be getting into the final four games. I'm going to be predicting who I think is going to be making the playoffs. 4 weeks left. I think this is a good time to take a little bit of an in-depth analysis on all this because there's a lot of tiebreaker stuffs and things that we need to get into. Final four game predictions as well. So let's just take a look at the standings right now, the playoff picture. If you look at it right now, you look at teams like, let's start out with the AFC. No teams have clinched a playoff spot left. Obviously, 7 teams are wanting to clinch. We have the number 1 seed, the Ravens, 2 Miami, 3 Kansas City, and then 4 the Jaguars, all the division leaders at the moment. The wild card teams right now are the 5-seeded Browns, 6-seed Pittsburgh still in that mix, even after losing, and then the 7-seed Colts. And then we look at the bubble, some of these teams that are kind of in the mix: Texans, Broncos, Bengals, Bills, all 7-6, and then these teams you can really just count out at this point, and the Patriots are obviously eliminated. In the NFC, the Niners are the first team to clinch. They've clinched the NFC West as the number 1 seed. No other teams have clinched quite yet. We do have the Cowboys as the 2, Lions the 3, for the Buccaneers for the division leaders. Wild card teams, the Eagles have dropped to a wild card team as the 5, Vikings the 6, and the Packers the 7. Teams on the bubble right now: the Los Angeles Rams, Seattle Seahawks, all these teams 6 and 7. Packers also 6 and 7. You got the Falcons, Saints, who both those teams not only are in the mix for the NFC South, but they could maybe sneak in to the wild card as well. Then, honestly, the 5 and 8 teams in the NFC are for sure not out of it. You got teams like the Giants, who are at 5 and 8, Bears at 5 and 8, Washington I'm probably counting out, and Arizona I'm for sure counting out right there. So that is the playoff picture right now. Let's see if this thing will change. So I do go to this playoff machine website here. Take a look at the picks here. This is my week 15 picks. So if you want more in-depth analysis on those, go check out that video I made today. But that would mean with the switch up, we have teams like Denver back in the playoffs. The Texans did lose, so they're the 7th seed. The Colts are going to climb up to the 6th seed. Browns are the 5th seed. That means that the Steelers are dropping out. Nothing has changed in the division leaders. You look at the NFC, the Niners are the 1 seed. Green Bay still stays the 7, Vikings 6, Eagles 5. Falcons now have taken the 4 seed, I believe. Yep, the Bucks I had losing to Los Angeles. Detroit I have losing, so they're not quite clinching a playoff berth yet. And then we have Dallas, who I also predicted to lose to the Bills. So the playoff race is pretty close here. Let's get into week 16 though. These predictions here. Let's just kind of rip through these. Thursday night, Rams Saints. Gonna go with the Rams out for now. That'll put the Rams as the 6th seed you see there. Steelers Bengals. I believe this is a Saturday game. Big game between these two. Let's go with. I just don't trust that Steelers team, so I'm going to go with the Bengals on the road. That puts the Bengals at the 6 right now. Bills Chargers. Gonna give me the Bills. That's going to put the Bills at 9 and 6 now as the 7 seed. Big game. Texans Browns. At this point, CJ Stroud's back. The Browns defense isn't as good on the road, so I'm going to put the Texans when they are not quite in the playoff picture there. I believe they would wound up being. Now the Browns are 9 and 6. The Texans will wind up being at 8 and 7, so they're still a game back. Jets Commanders, that game doesn't really matter. I'll go with the Jets. Seahawks, I think, will beat the Titans. That will put Seattle at the 7 seed right now. Falcons, I do think. Oh, interesting game. So what are the Falcons at? 7 and 8 or 7-7? The Colts would be 9 and 6. If the Colts win, they are They take over, wow, the AFC South. I'm going to actually go with the Falcons, I think, at home. I think they have enough talent, so that'll drop the Colts to 8-7. Packers, I do think will beat the Panthers, so the Packers jump up now over Seattle and LA because they do own tiebreakers over those two. Lions, Minnesota. Give me Detroit. I think they could bounce back in that one to move to 10-5. Jacksonville, Bucks. I'm gonna have to go with the Jaguars in that one. Not a big believer in that Buccaneers team. So yeah, the Bucks will fall from that one down to 6-9. So the Bucks have kind of fallen off over the past couple games there. Bears, I think, will beat the Cardinals in that one. Are the Bears still in the mix? I had them lose last week, so they're 6-9. Not really in the mix now, unfortunately for them. I'm gonna go with the Dolphins to beat Dallas. Broncos, I think, will beat New England. Chiefs, I think, will beat the Raiders. Eagles, I think, kind of eliminates the Giants' hopes there. And then the Niners, I think, would beat the Ravens on Monday night. So if we look at the standings now from that, we have teams like Baltimore, the 1 seed, Miami 2, Chiefs 3, Jaguars 4, not really changing from that 4 seeds. The wild card in the AFC is very tight, though. We have Denver as a 5, Cleveland as a 6, Cincinnati's a 7. The Bills did win, right? Yep, they beat the Chargers, so the Bills are also at 9-6. Pittsburgh's really fallen off. They're out, I think, at that point. You look at teams like Indy and Houston, they're at 8-7 both, so they're still in the mix right there. So still in the mix from those teams. We look at the NFC, the Niners the 1, Eagles the 2, Detroit the 3, the 4 seeds now Atlanta. Let's just take a look at this wild NFC South now. Atlanta's going to be at 8-7. New Orleans a game back at 7-8. I believe Atlanta owns tiebreakers over New Orleans at this point. And then Tampa Bay really have fallen off to 2 straight losing streak in my prediction. So yeah, now that Dallas loses to Miami, I do have Philadelphia. So Dallas actually, I'm predicting going on a 2-game losing skid to Miami. And who did they play last week? Buffalo. 2 road games that are tough. So I'm actually predicting a 2-game losing skid for Dallas, surprisingly. So they're now out of the division lead. Green Bay and LA are still clinging to those 6 and 7 seeds. Seattle remaining at 8-7 in the mix with wins over Philly and Tennessee. And then you look at a team like New York is kind of out of it. Chicago's out of it. Minnesota now have lost 2 straight at 7-8. So Minnesota's kind of in a pickle now. All right, week 17 though. Browns, Jets. I do think on Thursday night, Cleveland gets the win to move to 10-6. That'll put them as the 5 right there. Dallas, I think, will bounce back, beats Detroit. Miami, Baltimore. Gonna have to go with. That's a big game. Big game. If Miami wins that one, whoever wins that one's gonna pretty much lock up the 1 seed, I think, unless KC wins. And then, yeah, that's interesting with KC there, but I am gonna go with Baltimore actually in that game to win it and move to 12-4 on the year. Buffalo, I think, will beat New England. Chicago, I think, will beat. Let's go Chicago actually in that one. 7-9 versus 8-8. It's being played in Chicago. Chicago's a decent team at this point on the season. So Atlanta's going to drop a tough loss. So that puts them at 8-8. Let's see where the Saints play. The Saints will play Tampa. Raiders, Colts. Interesting one. Gonna have to go with the Colts though at home. Jacksonville, I think, will beat New England. So the Colts are now at 9-7. Jacksonville still in the lead of the AFC South. Houston, I think, gets revenge on Tennessee in that one. Rams, Giants is going to be an interesting one. The Rams are on a 2-game winning streak. Giants are in a 2-game skid. Honestly, being played in New York, I'm going to go with an upset there. Shake things up. The Giants beat Los Angeles. The Rams have fallen to 8-8. Tough loss for the Rams, but Eagles, I think, will beat Arizona. That's going to be big for them to try and clinch up that 2 seed. Going to be tough for them to get that 1 seed. Just going to say Niners will clinch the 1 seed with that win. They have clinched it up over Washington. Tampa Bay, New Orleans. You look at Tampa. If they win that one, they're not out of the mix. They become a game back over Atlanta. New Orleans, let's just take a look. What would happen if Atlanta would stay? If the Saints win, Atlanta stays. So right now, Atlanta controls their own destiny. I am going to go with Tampa, though, at home to win that one. Seattle, I think, will beat Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, now officially, Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin will have a losing season, losing to Seattle right there. I think Mitch Trubisky, it's going to catch up to them, and Pittsburgh's going to lose to the Seahawks on the road there. Kansas City, I think, would beat Cincinnati. Denver, I think, will beat Los Angeles. That remains them at a 10-6 mark. And then Packers, Vikings, big game. I believe this is a Sunday night football game. What would happen if Minnesota wins? Minnesota becomes the 8-8 team. Packers win. I'm going to go with Minnesota because, right, the Packers won earlier this year, I believe. It's being played in Minnesota. I think that Minnesota defense is going to have enough in that one to beat Green Bay. So we look at the standings now. A big shakeup here. Let's look at the AFC first. The number 1 seed is Baltimore. Kansas City, the 2 seed, now taking over Miami's 3 seed after Miami lose. So Miami's now a 3 seed. Jacksonville, the 4 seed. They haven't locked up. Yeah, Miami's not locked up the South. The East yet. KC, I don't think, has locked up the West. Baltimore has locked up the North. Jacksonville, if we look at the AFC South, Indy's right behind them. Houston's right behind them, so I'm not going to say they have clinched anything quite yet. For the wild cards, Denver's now the 5 seed. They're continuing this winning streak. Whoops, guys, sorry. I have this a little bit zoomed in to make it a little bit more visual pleasing, but Denver right now, they're looking good to make the postseason. They beat Cleveland and Buffalo, so they have tiebreakers over both those teams. Browns 10-6 now. Buffalo back in the mix at 10-6. Who lost? Cincinnati lost. Who did they lose to? Kansas City. That is who Cincinnati lost to on the road there. So Cincinnati's now out. Indy, Houston, all in the mix right there. Let's look at the NFC now. The Niners obviously have clinched up the 1, not only the West, but the 1 now. Philly now, the 2 seed, trying to lock up that 1 with a win over whoever they play next week. The 3 seed going to be Detroit. 4 seed Detroit with the Green Bay loss. Yep, Detroit's locked up the North, and they've locked up the 3 seed, so they'll be playing whoever the 6 seed is. Falcons are going to be the 4 seed right now, but things have gotten interesting in the South. You look at Atlanta. If Atlanta's playing Carolina, man, that's going to be bad, but we'll see. 5 seed's going to be the Cowboys. Right now, trying to maybe hope that Eagles lose. Seattle right now, the 6 seed, they have gone on in my predictions, they have gone on a 3-game winning streak right now. They are at the 6 right now, and then Minnesota has snuck in as the 7 seed between 3 tiebreakers between Minnesota, Los Angeles, and Green Bay. Minnesota has made it. Chicago, honestly, is not out of the mix quite yet at a 7-9, and you can't forget about Tampa Bay, New Orleans, maybe, making a miracle to make the wild card round. Okay, let's get into this final week where things become interesting. Seattle versus Arizona. Seattle would clinch with a win versus the Cardinals. I'm worried about this one as a Seahawks fan. What would, for a hypothetical scenario right now, let's have some fun with this. I'm just going to pick the Arizona Cardinals right now, just to see what would happen with all these 4 tiebreakers. Baltimore against Pittsburgh. Gonna have to go with the Ravens. Pittsburgh finishes with 7-10 after 7-6 currently. Carolina, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is the one that gets Carolina. I kind of want to wait. Out in the NFC South here. Let's just kind of wait out in that one. Bengals, Browns. Cincinnati, Cleveland. So, if Cincinnati wins this one, Cincinnati doesn't own a tiebreaker over Cleveland. Cleveland wins it. They jump to the 5 seed for the moment. It's being played in Cincinnati. I'm going to actually go with the Bengals here. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Bengals. Now they just got to hope for some chaos. Vikings, Lions. Give me Detroit. So that moves the Minnesota Vikings. They've officially are out at the moment. I kind of want to see what would happen if the Bears beat and then say the Niners. Nope, the Bears have been eliminated then. So give me the Packers. This game hasn't been decided. Let's just put a tie for now. Texans, Colts. Give me the Colts. No, give me Houston, actually. So Houston is now the 7th seed. What would happen if the Colts won? Cleveland's the 7th seed. But I'm actually going with Houston here. So Cleveland now is out of the playoffs. They would need a Miami win, I think, to be in. Yep, a Miami win. That game's not decided yet. Let's just get this Chiefs one done. They're going to beat the Chargers, so they go on a 5-game winning streak to finish off the year. Denver is going to beat Las Vegas. Denver, I think, unless not quite yet with this one. Buffalo, Miami. Interesting. I think I am going to go with the Bills. The Bills are either going to win the division or they're going to miss out on the playoffs, which is wild. I think I am going to go with the Buffalo Bills in that one to beat Miami. So that pushes the Broncos to a 6 seed, the Dolphins to a 5 seed. Now going to have to go on the road in a matchup. So now does that mean that if the Jaguars beat the Titans, they would be the 3 seed. But honestly, I'm going to go with Tennessee in that game to play a spoiler game. It just feels like that. The Jaguars fall to 10-7. That the Jaguars do have that division, though. I wonder what would happen if the Colts won. Would they take over the Jaguars spot? No, they wouldn't. So, yeah, the Jaguars still clinch the division, but the Titans do upset to finish at 7-10. Patriots, Jets, that game doesn't matter. Let's just go with the Jets. Saints, Falcons. Now the NFC South. Now let's get this NFC South out of the way. Falcons need a win to clinch. I'm going to go with the Saints at home. So what would happen? Falcons still have it. If Tampa wins, Tampa has it. So actually, the Buccaneers, I'm going with the Buccaneers to beat Carolina. Buccaneers are the 4 seed. Atlanta drops to 8-9. They can't get the wild card at this point. So yeah, the Buccaneers somehow prevail. Philadelphia there. And honestly, guys, since the Niners have clinched the division, I would go LA. That kicks out the Seahawks out of the playoffs at that point in time. I'm going to have to go with Seattle over Arizona. That was a hypothetical scenario there. I think the Seahawks would be able to beat the Cardinals. And then we finish off Cowboys, I think, would beat Washington to try and maybe earn that 2 seed. So what are my final playoff predictions here? Teams making it. Baltimore is going to lock up the 1 seed. They're going to only lose one more game to finish off the year. We have the Chiefs as the 2 seed. The Bills win the division. What do they go? They go on this 6-game winning streak to finish off the year, or 5-game. 5-game winning streak to finish off the year. And they earn the 3 seed. Jaguars could have had an opportunity to get that 3 seed, but lose to the Titans. They finish at the 4 seed. Miami finishes at the 5. A really good matchup in that first round between Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars and Tua and the Dolphins. That one would be fun to watch. Denver earns the 6 seed. Buffalo, Denver. We know that wild card or that Monday Night Football game went to the wire. That one would be a very fun one to watch. Those teams would be red hot at this point. That would be a very good matchup. I hope we see that one in the playoffs. And then the Texans and the Chiefs. Don't sleep on that one. Kansas City, they get an easy finishing stretch to finish off this year to get that 2 seed and finish at 12-5 against Houston. CJ Stroud might just upset Patrick Mahomes. So teams missing out. I do have Cleveland finishing at 10-7, missing out. Cincinnati finishing at 10-7, missing out on the playoffs. We have the Colts, unfortunately. Even if they beat the Texans, they would be missing out. And then that other these teams, we have Pittsburgh finishing at 7-10. No, Tennessee 7-10. None of those teams had really a chance coming into this week. NFC, Niners obviously the 1. Eagles do win out, or a 3-game winning streak to claim the 2 seed. We do have Detroit as the 3 seed, Tampa Bay as the 4 seed. Surviving that miracle run between Atlanta, New Orleans. All of these teams go 2-2 to finish off the season. Tampa Bay was at 6-9, and they finish off on a 2-game win streak. There was a lot of games where Atlanta could have won, and they could have won this division, but they didn't. And then Tampa would have to host Dallas for the second straight year in a playoff matchup. We do have Seattle winning against or playing Detroit, another really good 3 versus 6 seed. Detroit, a team that has lost the past few games. I hope we see this one as a Seahawks fan. These two, whenever they meet, have a really good matchup. Then Philadelphia and Green Bay at a 2 versus a 7 seed matchup. Teams missing out in the NFC. We have Minnesota finishing at 8-9, unfortunately missing out. They play Detroit to finish off the year, I believe. And then we had New Orleans, Atlanta, of course, Los Angeles missing out at 9-8. Unfortunately, just didn't have enough in the tank to make the postseason. So, what would you guys think of these playoff matchups and these playoff standings? Seattle versus Detroit would be a fun one. Buffalo, Denver, I think I would be most excited for those. I think this would be a very interesting playoffs to watch. We could have the first 7 seed win in Houston versus Kansas City, maybe. A lot of wild card teams who I think have good opportunities to win against the division leaders. All right, so anyway, guys, thank you all for watching this video today. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the content. Comment down below your thoughts and your predictions for the final 4 games. Who do you think deserves to make the playoffs? Who do you think is the who do you think will end up in the playoffs based on their final 4 games? Anyway, guys, peace out.